time to change the UFC rules? They say MMA is all about evolving your skill set. Striking, grappling, cardio. But at UFC Fight Night 253, there was one technique that reared its ugly head yet again. At this point, we might as well put it on the official UFC stats page, right next to takedown defense and significant strikes. Dark arts aside, we had brutal finishes, veteran resurgence, and highlight reel moments that shook up multiple divisions. Before the main card chaos, the prelims delivered their own mix of technical showcases, brutal knockouts, and some classic UFC weirdness. Firstly, Ramazan Tamirov secured a unanimous decision win over Charles Johnson in a solid flyweight scrap, with all three judges scoring it 29-28. A solid technical bout, but let's be honest, not one that's making Dana White sprint to his post-fight press conference. Then, in the women's flyweight division, JJ Aldrich put on a clinic against Andrea Lee, earning a dominant decision victory. Aldrich showed up sharp, while Lee, well, let's just say she looked like someone who realized she left the stove on mid-fight. Our first bit of drama came when Lucas Almeida missed weight for his fight against Danny Silva, coming in at 148 pounds for their featherweight clash. That's the MMA equivalent of showing up to a wedding in cargo shorts. Just disrespectful. Silva wasn't having any of it, and took home a split decision victory in a closely contested bout. But the real fireworks? Mario Pinto versus Austin Lane in the heavyweight division. Pinto delivered an absolutely diabolical knockout, finishing Lane 39 seconds into the second round. That one earned him a Performance of the Night bonus, and immediately had fans wondering if there's a new heavyweight killer in town. If the prelims were theatre trailers, the main card was like finally getting to the actual movie. From breakout performances to moments that had fans questioning the judging criteria. Again, the card started with Sam Patterson deciding Danny Barlow's consciousness had overstayed its welcome. Patterson came out aggressive, shutting Barlow down with a first-round knockout at the 3-minute 10-second mark. Patterson, often known for his technical precision, threw caution to the wind and let the hands go. It worked, and it worked fast. Next up, undefeated prospect Haider Amil extended his unbeaten streak to 11-0 with a split decision win over William Gomis. This one was close. So close that one judge must have been flipping a coin while scoring. At 11-0, Amil is building serious momentum in the featherweight division. He's passed every test the UFC has thrown at him, and now it's time to see how he fares against the big boys of 145. Now, some fights are technical chess matches, others are barroom brawls with better cardio. This was the latter. Nasrat Haqparast and Esteban Ribovic lit up the octagon in a back-and-forth war, with Haqparast getting the split decision win. Wild exchanges, massive momentum swings, and enough heart from both men to fuel a Hollywood underdog movie. In the end, Haqparast walked away with his 5th straight win, proving he's no longer just a fan-favourite action fighter. He's a legitimate contender in the lightweight division. Then came Cody Brundage, who had no interest in a full night's work. Stepping into the co-main event on short notice, Brundage made sure Julian Marquez's return to the octagon was short and painful, scoring a first-round TKO at 4 minutes 45 seconds. Brundage is shaping up to be a middleweight wildcard, a guy who might not always be favoured, but is always dangerous. On the other hand, for Marquez, this was his 4th straight KO loss, and at some point, you have to wonder if Dana White's looking at his resume and muttering, "We'll call you." Ladies and gentlemen, the main event of UFC Fight Night 253 had it all. Power, precision, pressure, and of course, controversy. Manel Kape came in with the swagger of a man who knew he was the better fighter, and from the moment the cage door shut, he wasted no time proving it. Kape did what Kape does. Took center control, moved like a man who had already envisioned the victory, and forced Almabayev into a game of reaction rather than action. The footwork, the stance switches, the well-timed bursts of aggression, it was all classic Kape, and Almabayev quickly found himself on the back foot. Literally. Now, let's not pretend Almabayev was just a punching bag in there. At 17-0, the man is no stranger to adversity. He tried to disrupt Kape's rhythm with counterhooks and level changes, looking for that one opening. But for every step forward, Kape had 2 waiting for him. By round 2, Kape was comfortable, maybe a little too comfortable. That's when he started bringing out the flashy offense. Spinning kicks, jumping knees, taunts. It was a show, and Almabayev was struggling to find the remote to turn it off. Then came the moment that changed everything. Bam! The dreaded round 3 eye poke. Almabayev reacted immediately, like a man realizing he left the garage open. But here's the problem. Beltran didn't see it. And Cape, all he saw was an opening. With Almabayev momentarily distracted, Cape swarmed him. A barrage of strikes later, and the TKO was called at 2 minutes 16 seconds of round 3. Now, was the eye poke intentional? That's the million-dollar question. Cape, of course, says no. Almabayev? Well, he wasn't in the mood to debate after taking those final shots. Cape is now 7-3 in the UFC, and there's a legitimate case to be made for him getting a title shot. But the controversy surrounding the finish has sparked yet another conversation about officiating and the dreaded eye poke dilemma. At this point, UFC fights getting derailed by eye pokes are like an unwanted sequel. Nobody asked for it, yet here we are, watching the same disaster unfold again. I'm looking at you, Matrix 4. This isn't the first time an eye poke, or the lack of proper officiating around it, has changed the outcome of a fight. Just last week, Henry Cejudo lost under similarly controversial circumstances, and now Almabayev finds himself on the wrong end of a finish that could have gone another way had the ref intervened. The bigger issue? The UFC was already working on gloves designed to reduce eye pokes, but apparently they scrapped the idea after complaints from fighters. Some sources say Jon Jones wasn't a fan. Come on, Jones, keep those fingers to yourself. Now fighters and fans alike are calling for stricter enforcement of eye poke penalties. Some want automatic point deductions regardless of intent, while others are demanding better glove designs that force a natural curve in the fingers. As Henry Cejudo put it, eye pokes are the greatest threat to the growth of this sport. And honestly, he may have a point. If we're being real, a sport where you can legally lose your vision, but not legally use an IV to rehydrate, is starting to look a little backwards. So, is it time to change UFC rules? Like many fight nights we've already covered, UFC Fight Night 253 didn't just provide drama, it set the stage for the next wave of contenders. Manel Cape officially planted his flag in title contention. Will the UFC grant him a title shot, or will he have to take out one more contender? Either way, Cape isn't just a problem, he's an unavoidable one. Haider Emil continued his undefeated streak with another gritty win. He's been carving out his space against fighters with a mix of relentless pressure and technical ability. Is he ready for a ranked opponent? The UFC has a bad habit of feeding promising up-and-comers to the wolves, but Emil looks like he's up for the challenge. Meanwhile, Nasrat Haqparast might have just punched his ticket to the top 15 with his 5th straight win. His split decision victory showed experience, durability, and a growing skill set that could make him a threat in the lightweight division. If there's one thing we know about 155, it's that you have to make every fight count. But this wasn't just about individual performances. Fight Night 253 reminded us of one crucial fact. Momentum is everything. Some fighters capitalized, some stumbled, and some, well, they may need to rethink their career trajectories. As we look ahead, UFC 313 looms large, headlined by a high-stakes light heavyweight title bout between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. But for the fighters who made waves at Fight Night 253, the real fight isn't in the octagon. It's in the negotiations, the matchmaking, and the brutal climb up the rankings. Because in the UFC, you're only as good as your last fight. And for these contenders, their next fight might just define their careers.